Pitch for the financial year 2025-2026 under the theme Full Monetization of Uganda's Economy through Commercial Agriculture, Industrialization, Expanding and Broadening Social Services, Digital Transformation and Market Access. Please listen to the budget speech on 12th June 2025 to know the budget priorities and the opportunities it presents. Our budget, our responsibility. This message is brought to you by the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and all the Budget Month partners.
Good afternoon to you all. Thank you for joining us on UBC Television. My name is Wadulo Arnold Mark, news anchor and business journalist here at Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. We really do thank you for keeping it on UBC, the place where we inform, entertain, and educate Uganda and overseas and beyond. Well, we have to thank you so much for joining us at this particular live broadcast as we count down hours to the national budget reading. Keep it in mind that the national budget was already passed, and what's going to be happening in a few hours is only a formality for the country, because it is required as per the laws to make sure that the country is informed about the allocations that the budget is having. So with me in the studio today, I'm privileged to host several pristine persons from different organizations, and I'll be introducing them one at a time before they give us an in-depth analysis on who exactly they are. And in the house, I have Blaise Okwera, who is a tax and legal manager at Ernst & Young. We have Julius Mukunda, who is the executive director of the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group. And then we have Penina Naiga, who is a research associate at the Uganda Debt Network. And I'll allow each and every one of them to first take a round of introducing themselves, who they are, what they do, and then we shall get into the flesh of the topic today. I'll start with the gentleman far left.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thanks for having me. Like you mentioned, Blaise Okwera is my name. I'm a tax and legal manager with Ernst & Young. And on a regular basis, my job revolves around assisting my clients to comply with the tax regulations. In addition to that, I also assist them with any disputes that may arise if they don't agree with what the tax regulation is stating vis-a-vis how URA is enforcing it. So basically, I have been at home with anything to do with tax, and I'm very interested to share my opinion on what we see happening in this budget in relation to the tax, and how the taxpayer should brace themselves or applaud for the government for what is going to be inserted in the budget.
Okay. Thank you very much. And then we'll take it to the next gentleman, who is not a visitor here, but a common figure that we duly host here most times.
Yes. Yes. Good afternoon, our viewers. Good afternoon, Wadulo. Mukunda Julius, my name. I work for the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, and our work revolves around understanding how government collects money and spends money. And today is a very great day, because after 12 years of engaging government to develop a budget, finally the speech is going to be read, and we are now ready to listen to what the minister is going to say, and also the opportunities that are available for Ugandans. At the same time, trying to see how the challenges that government is likely to face can be addressed. Thank you.
Maybe before we go to the next person, I just want to understand the mandate and scope of the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group. You are an advocacy group. Are you a group of civil society organizations or a group of advocates?
We are a membership organization of 100 civil society organizations in Uganda, okay. And our members are interested in that particular subject matter, okay, of public finance management. So right. We try to engage government to ensure that our money is collected fairly and also spent correctly.
Okay. All right, then we'll move to the next lady, or to the lady on your right. Penina, would you kindly introduce yourself, who you are and what you do?
Thank you very much, Mark. My name is Naga Penina. I'm a research associate at Uganda Date Network. Being the only female on the panel, I think our women should come on and should engage more in this space. It's not only men that should fight for the nation, it's our nation. That's why they call any country her. It's, because it's our women, it's our woman. It's a nation that's full of women, and the majority of the population are women. So I will encourage much more women to come into this space, to fight for the nation and to see it thrilling. Yes.
Okay. Please go on.
Yeah, we are getting back on track. Uganda Date Network, we do analysis on the budget, debt, to see that the government is more transparent in its allocation and ensure that there is efficient allocation of resources, that they are prudently managed, and to ensure that the economy is thriving very well, to say that the economy is growing so that we don't have to go elsewhere to receive the basic services. We can find them here.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, and when you say that the women are majority, I really want you to decide, by what percentage are women more than men for you to justify such a statement?
60% of our population is
okay.
women. Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we are having very relevant people in this studio today to discuss pertinent issues concerning the national budget, and being that these are issues that most of you are affected by, I think it's important that you pay an ear to what we're going to be discussing, because some within here are economic opportunities, within here are advocacy lines or angles, within here are going to be numerous aspects that you can pick a leaf from and take home with you for your specific field of operation. So, being that he is a little more, the most experienced in the house today, I'll start with Julius Mukunda. First and foremost, we are looking at a national budget that didn't go so far away from the previous budget, 2024-2025. We're now looking at 2025-2026. However, we are looking at a new angle or a unique point of view in that we are starting a new development plan. And this is the fourth, okay? But being that assessments from the previous national development plans have ranked or have assessed that we haven't met 100% of the targets that each of those development plans started. So one would ask then, why are we setting ourselves up to fail? Why don't we then, set the targets more easier and then implement on a success rate as opposed to a failure rate?
Oh, I think every country must be ambitious. If you really are not ambitious, then probably you are likely to end up doing the same things every day and you cannot develop. Let's be very ambitious. And I think when I hear of 50 billion economy to 500 billion economy, I'm like, wow, let's get to it. Because being ambitious makes you think differently, try to do things differently, because it means that if you really want, if somebody wants to run a 100-kilometer journey, and another one is going to run, 1 kilometer, the preparation is different. So we need that kind of vigor, that kind of incentive that we can really run 100 kilometers, and we can do that. That's the bitter part of it, because we have everything that it takes. Yes, there's NDP we didn't do well. We haven't finished actually the final review, but the midterm review put at 17%, which is very embarrassing. If you're in a classroom and you get 17% and you take the report to your dad, for those of us, I mean, really, it would be very, very difficult to enter his house with that kind of report. So we need, therefore, to document our failures and learn from them on how we can actually do better. First and foremost is that I have seen that the new development plan, they have reduced the programs from 20 to 18. Which I think that's another one, because that's a learning, that you can't do so many things at the same time. Just do as little as you can, step by step, and then you can be able to move ahead. Second, as you rightly said from the beginning, this shifting of budget from 40 trillion to 70 trillion a bit, I mean, where are you going to get that money from? So again, I think is that government has tried to say, okay, from 72.1 to 72.3, let us only do do that. I think that's one of saying, let us not stretch ourselves so much. We are likely to have a failure. And as such, I think we are now seeing not new programs, especially like my friends from taxation. You can really see that government has not brought new taxes except for this bad one on the border. I wonder why really they had to spoil everything.
Okay.
Because most of the things really they are trying to broaden. They are trying to broaden the taxation, and that is something we have been advocating for. Very few people are paying.
Yeah.
And yet there are those who can afford to pay, but they are not in taxation bracket. So really, for government now to say, let us work out means, I think the person who thought about that was very brilliant.
Yeah.
How should we reduce informality, bring everybody on board? The example I could give is that a saloon owner, a garage owner, these garages in Wandege, they pay taxes. A market vendor, they pay taxes. This is tomorrow shop.
When you say taxes, direct taxes in that? Because
some pay direct. A number of them pay direct. But you have you produce 500 liters of milk. There is no direct tax that you are paying at
okay. I think
I mean, really tell me, you and this small woman and man who are trying to struggle and survive in Uganda, they are doing that. But it's so you can see now that by transferring, by combining NIN and TIN, probably some people are going to get into the bracket.
Okay.
So I think these are the learnings we are getting.
Yeah.
It's very important. And I'm hoping that we can really try to see how we can transform our country and our economy.
NIN and TIN, I'll take you on that one a little later because that's a very interesting
it is for him. He knows
aspect to bring it up. But perhaps let me actually start it from there. Mr. Okwera, from the tax scope, from the tax point of view, how effective would it be to combine a NIN and a TIN? For you viewing us that might not know, TIN is a tax identification number, and then NIN is a national identification number. And I'm guessing that the rationale is to ensure that everybody that is eligible of having a national identification number should be eligible to have a tax identification number. And government has been struggling to widen the tax base. Very many complaints have come, especially from private sector, that the taxable population is quite small. I would want you to start off from there. What do you think are the gaps or the places that government has not been looking in trying to widen the tax base to the potential that it can serve our needs as they should without or minimizing the level at which we borrow?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mark. That's a very interesting trail of questions. And before I get to that, just allow me to supplement on what my colleague Julius has just mentioned. He says something that is very important for us to observe as we analyze what's happening in this year's budget.
Yeah.
So we are in the middle of the half-year mark. The first three NDPs are done. Government has evaluated. It has learned from the mistakes that have been made and has projected a different approach going forward. Of course, you have to maintain that the NDPs are hinged on the 2040 vision, which is to push us to upper middle income status.
Yeah.
Now, there's a very strong saying in the tax world that if you want to punish a middle income man, put him between tax and inflation. Now, government is cognizant of some of these things. So this year's tax is moving away from squeezing the middle income person and focusing more on how to emphasize administration of tax, collection, and closing some of those administrative deficiencies. So key on the budget papers and the NDP 4 is to find a way of emphasizing tax administration.
Yeah.
Now we are seeing these very same sentiments expressed in the tax amendments. One of them, as Julius had mentioned, very key, is the introduction of a seamless transition of individuals to the tax register. Right now, the tax register has about 4.5 million taxpayers, and that's a very big contradiction from the 45 million Ugandans who are there. So before we even start talking about we are collecting little, we have very little people on the list.
Yeah, but of course that assumption wouldn't account if you notice that over 70% of our population is under the age of 15. So those are not barely taxpayers. But yeah,
yes,
please.
the 30% of it would still not be less than 4.5. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, but
So,
I
okay.
mean, the range is not as big as if someone benchmarked on 45 million. But please.
That is fine. Even if you pick out the 10 million, we're less than half of that amount of reasonable taxpayers should come into the bracket. Meaning most of the cash that should actually be taxed is out of the net, and people have been under the radar. Because of the bureaucracy on tax registration, you need to get a TIN before you can be noticed. Now, the introduction of a NIN comes with its own complications. In my opinion, I think there has to be a lot of emphasis on how they're going to protect personal information, because the national ID card takes you straight to the village. It takes you straight to your village. It talks about your parish, what's going down to the village. So that information is quite sensitive and may lead to a new era of identity fraud.
Yeah, but
So
we have a data protection law.
we have a data protection law, but we have so many laws in this country with zero enforcement. So the issue is, the introduction of this administrative aid is welcome,
Yeah.
but there's a need for the spillover of the negative also to be taken care of. URA should come out to assure that the data is going to be safe, to ensure to tell the taxpayers that if you give me this information, it will not be hacked, it will not be engaged by any other person. And that falls into the statement by the Commissioner General when he appeared before the Parliament in January, confirming that they are focusing more on digitization. So they're aligning the protection as well. So the tax introduction, the tax provisions in this year's budget are tuned towards more emphasis on tax administration. So how can we make it easier for URA to collect more tax? I mean, they have reduced the penalty on IFRIS.
Yeah.
So let's have less crying, because before it was barbaric, 8 million, 6 million for one transaction. So now if you sell a bottle of soda at 1K and the tax is 180, the penalty would be 360, so 2 times the tax payable. You see it everywhere across the board. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the tax provisions have been designed to focus more on how do we make URA's life easier in collecting taxes, and there has been very limited, or if no introduction of any new tax. Now, for the next 10 years going forward, and what the NDP is going to cover for the next 5 years, the focus is, let's not squeeze the taxpayer, let's focus on administration, let people have some flexibility to earn money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think you raised very insightful points there. I like the fact that you also catered to the other side of rolling out the NIN with the TIN. And I think that's something that the URA or anybody in the office, the Commissioner General, should be taking a note of. So let me move now to my colleague on my immediate left, Ms. Penina. When it comes to allocation of the national budget, we're looking at boosting household incomes as one of the priorities, industrialization, private sector development, and we're looking at transport infrastructure and human capital development. It is, of course, important to note that some of these priorities have come, of course, from the previous national budget. And the ATMs were some of those things that we were using to see that we achieve upper middle income status by Vision 2040. I want you to analyze for me the priorities on their relevance and whether or not we left out some priorities that we could have handled.
Yes, thank you very much, Mark.
But I would ask you to be a little more louder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mark. Yes, we see the way the coming financial year's budget, the way the priorities are being aligned, I feel they are good. Yeah. I feel they are aligned with our competitive advantage as a country when it comes more to agriculture. But I feel that when it comes to the allocations, yes, they are emphasizing the ATMs, but how much are they allocating to those programs? We see that there is a deficit when it comes to the allocation. When it comes even to the development plan, the way it is guiding our government, how it's allocating to those programs, because we see that tourism and agriculture, we have a very good competitive advantage. We have, if I told tourism is really given an emphasis, is really given forefront, we see it has a potential of increasing our foreign reserves, and it has a, if I told our foreign reserves are increasing, also the foreign exchange, when it comes to our currency, we see that it has a potential of non-depreciating, and also has a great impact over improving our debt. When it comes to the servicing, we won't be able to face a huge burden when it comes to repayment part. Yes, I feel that when it comes to education, it is a bit lacking. Yes, most times the PSST says when it comes to we can find like when it comes to industrialization, the infrastructure, you can find that it is in the infrastructure. In the infrastructure development program, but you want to see that in the agro-industrialization program, it's feeling the pinch of what is being allocated to the manufacturing sector. It is feeling the pinch of what's being allocated, so that we see that these sectors are thrilling, because most of the time we see that you're exporting. We have a trade deficit. You're exporting because we are exporting less, because we have less of the value-added goods, and we are importing those goods that are a bit expensive. And what does that mean to our country? It's really, I feel it's an injustice to our nation that if at all we are rich when it comes to agricultural products, what if we add value to them? I see we can do much more better, and all the challenges that the country and the nation are facing at the moment, they can easily be addressed.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm also seeing some points here that we can maybe also discuss further with Mr. Julius. I see that agriculture, like you had earlier mentioned, that agriculture is not taxed, okay? And Uganda is primarily an agrarian economy, yeah? But we are trying to shift away from necessarily being an agricultural-led economy to an export-led economy. And agriculture within there is among those priority sectors that we are trying to see that we can export. Recently, we exported our first batch of coffee, value-added coffee to Serbia, and we marked a very significant success in that realm. So I can see that already we have the ideas that exporting is going to do better for economy than importing, but also exporting finished products. Yes. Besides just exporting coffee in its raw product, in its raw form and the likes. But before I also ask the question, I would just also like to hint to our audience. I want you to understand that government is prioritizing boosting household incomes and micro enterprises. And of course, these are through these programs, the Parish Development Model, Emyoga, and the other programs, the Microfinance Support Center, which is actually running those programs. And then in industrialization and private sector development, I can see that they've given 275.9 billion shillings to that. And then transport infrastructure development, which is a very key economic enabler. We're seeing 2.17 trillion actually going for the standard gauge railway, and 2.2 trillion going for national roads and bridges. I want to speak on infrastructure as an economic enabler.
Okay.
We are seeing that the last financial year, infrastructure was still a priority. And we also see some of the aspects. Of course, we see that roads were commissioned, some roads were commissioned, but some are still lagging, and they are going to enter into the next financial year. What cost does it cost us when infrastructure projects delay?
Okay, so two things, one on export and agriculture and the infrastructure.
Yes,
I think on exports, what can government Uganda export? I mean, really, the only thing we have is agriculture. Forget about gold. We know it is an outlier.
I don't think we only have
but I mean, the biggest, the big, one of the things we can really export very well is agriculture, you know, agricultural products.
Yeah.
And you have mentioned something I had not read about, the coffee added product, because I thought I was going to give you a new one. Recently, we've just exported 500 metric tons of powdered milk to Algeria. Now, that's going to be a game changer in the dairy industry. We are not going to start suffering with Kenya, please buy our milk. No, we are going to tell them, by the way, we don't have milk to give you.
But also Algeria alone is not a market enough for us to boast.
No, wait. And just imagine 500 metric tons. How many liters turn into that? How many cows will produce those kind of liters? And who is going to produce that milk? It is that individual farmer in Chiruhura, in Isinjiro, those people with cows that are producing milk. And as such, the days of having your liter being sold at 500 shillings are going to be over, because now, apart from Algeria, government has now realized the importance of commercial diplomacy to look for markets. So all those Arab countries, all these desert countries that don't have milk, that is our target. So if we shift from 500 metric tons to 5,000 metric tons, that is a game changer. That's the kind of value addition export you look out for in the dairy sector.
I also want to ask, the powdered milk in its value-added form is now paying tax.
Now that's when I'm coming in. Now I'm coming in with him. Now,
Right, yeah.
these people now who are in the dairy industry now are getting into the taxation bracket.
Okay.
Because now they are producing for export. They are earning some money. Previously, they couldn't get into the taxation bracket because milk is being bought at home. At times, they even pour it because they have nowhere to sell it. But now there is a market that is organized. Because you're not going to sell to Algeria your milk which is not being properly harvested from cows. You must make sure that there are standards that are going to be followed. To do that, probably you need to be in a cooperative. And the cooperative will make sure that standards are set for you to sell the right quality of milk. And once we start organizing ourselves, then we are reducing the informality, and which is killing this economy in this country. So that is agriculture. We shall go to education. We shall go to tourism. Now, once we do that, let me tell you, then and now, government will have enough money. We stop borrowing from Stanbic Bank across the street. And once that is done, then we know that at least interest rates go down, private sector can start growing. Now our farmers will start using high-tech in the dairy industry and other areas. So
because to produce that amount of milk, you really need to mechanize.
And actually, I'm very afraid that if we get more markets, we might not actually fulfill this market. That's the challenge I'm just thinking, because we really need to start to invest in the production of this particular market. And if PDM is also going to succeed, similar things must happen. We must have guaranteed market for our maize, guaranteed markets for our beans, guaranteed markets for our soybean and whatever we are doing. It's really sad that you find a company that comes to Uganda, wants to establish an oil industry, and the first thing they do is to first go and farm. And then you ask yourself, surely if government was serious, it would have been able to produce enough for this person, instead of investing money to start farming, to invest the money in having a very high capacity machine that can produce more oil for this country. So I think that's where the link, my missing link in agriculture is. Investing to produce for the manufacturers so that we can export. The issue of infrastructure is our infrastructure gap is real. Yes, we've borrowed the money to build some roads. We have the express highway until they brought the express fines.
But first, help me decipher. Is the express highway the most expensive road in Uganda? Because is it the most expensive road?
I think it is the most. It's the
in
best
the world.
No,
actually, in the world, not even
the best looking.
But is it the most? Because someone's anyway. Please.
No. It's probably not. But I think for me is that it is very crucial that we have a better infrastructure, because infrastructure helps us to move goods and services. It reduces the cost of doing business. Just imagine how long it takes you to drive from Maraba to Kampala. If you had a standard gauge railway, the cost of transport would be by half. But also now the cost of repairing these roads. This Kampala Jinja Road, we shall always be repairing it all the time, because it cannot, the capacity for it to transport goods and services is beyond its limit. So you really need that. You need energy, for example. Now we have started having blackouts, and I'm not very happy with the UDCL because we have started having blackouts. And they say that we shall not have blackouts. You dear, please, you see dear, please think about that. We need energy, because you see, if you have a factory, you must have power 24/7. Today morning I was told that our factories are working at 50% capacity.
Yeah.
Why? That's wrong. You must have, you're supposed to have 3 shifts, work 24/7, but you can't do that because you don't have electricity.
The 50% capacity, is it attributed mainly to electricity or inputs and?
Majorly electricity. Of course, inputs also come in, but majorly is electricity. So you see, that's the kind of infrastructure that you need. Even hospitals, we need better hospitals. Rubawa should be able to come up and we finish it. And I think you have seen cries on social media. Even people with money are really grappling to have the best healthcare in this country. So if you have a CEO of an international company who comes here and he finds that really he cannot get the best healthcare they need, they will not be able to invest in this country. But the biggest challenge we have in infrastructure is not because we don't have the money. It's because we are not prepared to execute these projects on time and on budget. It is sad to note that we have 16 trillion of undisbursed loans for infrastructure development in this country. Inability really to use the money, and we end up being fined for not using that money.
What causes the inability not to use this money?
It is about corruption, about lack of preparedness. Corruption in terms of procurement irregularities. The World Bank project for Kampala to fix roads was signed in March 2023. This year, 2025, is when they have started touching that money, simply because they started bringing in companies that even don't have a spade to build the road. And then they were thrown out, because you need a competent company to build the road. So those kind of irregularities.
Okay.
But also the unpreparedness in terms of, we tend to start a project when we are not prepared. For example, let's use the express, this express thing that has been pulled out. You want to find people that you don't know the kind of repercussion that it's likely to bring to bring to you. And once you see the outcry, then you immediately stop it. But this is a project that you're supposed to have implemented. So it means you never planned well. You have a Busega MPG Express to have been finished 5 years ago. It was a 5-year project, 7 years down the road. It was 500 billion cost. We are now at 1.4 trillion, and we are at 40% performance. Who bewitched you? So somehow, I think for me is that lack of unprepared, probably we could say it is lack of unseriousness. That if you're an accounting officer, you have this project, step aside. Let's bring a Weduro and say, can we finish this project? If you have Rubawa, you wake up one morning and say, enough is enough. Let's have the project done and finished, and we move on. Because I think for me, it is probably lack of understanding that we need to fix this thing. But above what I've been informed that the right of way is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing. People don't, people really are very, in Uganda, you know, the land belongs to the people.
Yeah.
So if somebody is going to pass a road in your house, you are at liberty to say any price you want. Actually, you can even refuse compensation.
You can refuse compensation and then refuse to take your road off, like to
You can
give
actually refuse compensation and say, I don't want your compensation, I still want my house. And you will go to court.
And the law will protect you.
The law will, we are the best in these things when it comes to this country.
Okay.
So that, actually, so it means that before you start a road, before you sign a contract, make sure that you have the right to, you've compensated everybody. Those who don't want or are very expensive, change the design early. So that by the time you sign the contract, everything is done. But now you see, we go meet a tree, somebody says, I don't want to remove it. And
okay.
So.
Okay, all right. So I'll take it to now Mr. Blaise Okwera. We are looking at domestic revenue collection of 37 trillion. Actually, about 37 trillion, right? Yeah, 37 trillion. And when you look at the most contributing regions in the country, we're looking at the central, we're looking at, I think, Mukono, Kampala, Wakiso, and the likes. What ways, why are we still derailing? Because I also understand infrastructure gaps in other regions are contributing to poor performance in economic returns and the likes. How are we going to onboard all other regions to start ably contributing to the revenue basket, as opposed to highly depending on Kampala, Mukono, and Wakiso all these years? I know that some of the strategies are going to help, but I would like to hear your insights from an analyst point of view.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, I want to reiterate Mr. Julius' statement of who bewitched. who bewitched us. You've raised a very pertinent issue on most of the revenue coming from the central government. And this is a question that civil society has discussed, and the greater sub-Saharan Africa has also raised this issue. And the main solution they're looking at is decentralizing domestic revenue mobilization, moving it out of the central government and sending it down to the local governments. But this requires a lot of work. First of all, it requires public awareness, because in the villages, if the tax rate increases by even 200 shillings, all hell breaks loose. I don't know if you've heard of the Bukedia riots. Way back, the tax rate was increased from 30 shillings to 300, and an all-out civil war came out. The tax was being levied by the Buganda chiefs at that time. So the guys of Bukedia could not stand for it. So the sensitivity with dealing with domestic resource mobilization at a local government, it requires involving the people first. But at the same time, there's a requirement for capacity building at the local government levels. And you would be surprised to find that people in the regions outside Kampala would be quicker to comply when it comes to questions of tax. And so to spread it out of Kampala, a lot of emphasis should be on decentralizing of the domestic resource mobilization strategy down to the lower portions of government. But again, the key thing I also want to emphasize in a plan like this, why I reiterated Mr. Julius' statement of who bewitched us. Personally, I believe the primary issue we are suffering from is bad project management. There are certain things that are going to come out, whether we advance the economy or not. People will still want to pull some money on the side, but project management should have been a constant. You cannot start off a project without making certain assumptions and accounting for certain miscellaneous events. Now, if you, across the board, even with small transactions, people will always ask the question, did government make the reasonable consultation? I mean, you've been driving around with the traffic violation penalties, and people are asking, did they really consult for this 30 kilometers an hour issue? So there's a key element of public participation in the project management process. And we see that there is an issue of it not being aligned. I want to just highlight for you from the tax point of view. In January, when the Commissioner General was presenting the budget framework for his authority, URA, one of the members of parliament raised an issue, and he said for the past 3 years, the tax laws have been coming in without adequate research. This goes back to project management. You need to align with the NDP and the 2040 vision, and have this tax process start even early as when the budget circular is issued. But in most times it is happening much later into the fourth quarter of the year or third quarter of the year is when it comes up as a concern. So for me, two things: emphasizing the decentralization of domestic revenue mobilization, but pairing it with more efficient project management to ensure that the goals that are set out are actually executed. And to go back to what Julia said, there's no problem being ambitious. The only problem is when you're ambitious without a plan. Without a plan. That's where you get the issue.
I listened to I listened to the PSST recently when he was releasing the final disbursements of quarter 4, and he mentioned that the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development has constituted a new body that is responsible for project management. I think Mr. Mukunde, you were there at that time. Yeah, I think he also made a commitment that government is going to start handling projects in a better way. And I took him for his word, because he also mentioned something critical in that handling microeconomics, it's better to handle macroeconomics, because when you handle the macroeconomics, then the microeconomics takes care of itself. Fall into place. Thank you very much for that input. Perhaps PSST is also listening. So I'll take it to Ms. Penina now. In your docket of debt, okay, how are we going to develop how are we going to handle? Yeah. How are we going to carry all these priorities with the emerging debt that we have? We are still borrowing. I know that the finance ministry and government still insist that we are in the safe zone of borrowing, and as long as we borrow and implement appropriately. Yeah.
Yes.
Blaise has talked about poor project management. Of course, this is one of the reasons that we consistently have heavy debt. So please break it down for us. How are we going to manage this debt? What are the options you see on managing debt that you think government should really emphasize on?
Okay, thank you very much. There is a saying that says, any rich person that you see, there's no way that he or she got there without borrowing. And we find it that it's inevitable for us, like to thrill the economy, to thrill minus borrow. Even those developed countries, they still borrow. We find that their debt to GDP is still high. But coming back to your question, like saying, how are we going to deal with these priorities amid this high debt? I say that Uganda has there's a high potential for it to be able to clear its obligations. If at all we borrow and we commit ourselves to what we have borrowed for. Like all my colleagues have said, like poor project management. If at all we borrow, probably to do road rehabilitation, let's do it on time. Let's have feasibility study of all the projects that we are going to do. Because we see, most times we see that even when it comes to when you're going to raise revenue, going to tax those people, people are not satisfied with what their taxes are doing. Like the service delivery, it's not satisfactory when it comes to the citizens. We see that people are complaining, we are paying our taxes, but we are seeing they are seeing pitfalls on the roads. They are not satisfied. Even we see that the business environment is not enabling enough. They feel that they're not satisfied with what the government is doing, and it's almost like the government is doing its own budget and the citizens have their own priorities as well. Like there's that gap between the citizens and the government on what should be prioritized at the moment. So we feel as we are acquiring more loans, let us put them to projects that have a high multiplier effect, that will be able to boost the economy, that will be able to increase the private sector credit.
But I mean, we're borrowing for roads, isn't that higher multiplier priority?
Yes, we are borrowing for roads, but which roads are you constructing?
Economic roads.
We are looking at those community access roads. People in probably deep down in the village, you can find if at all probably my farm is very far from the main road. I have to go through those corridors to reach the main access road where I be able to put my bananas, my maize, so as to get what? So as to get some little income so that to sustain my family. Those are the roads that would need to be worked on, because most of the good infrastructure is in the city, and that's what most people believe in the village. My child is in the city, she's doing well, but it's not the case, because actually when you're in the village, you're sure that you have what to eat, but in the city you're not sure of that you're going to have unless you have a good job. But if at all those community access jobs, those roads are really worked on, I feel that like everyone will be able to benefit. Yes, the drive of government joining into the middle income status also has a disadvantage to the economy. We see that if at all we join the middle income sector, there are some benefits that you not be able to get, like the drugs from outside countries, the free drugs that you get. You say, this Uganda is doing very well. These are some of the benefits that they'll be cut off, and we see that we are by our human capital is one of the things that an economy will need to thrive. And we feel that the fact that our economies, our population is more of a youth, and which means that there is need to invest in human capital more, so that you see the economy thrilling for its long-term sustainability, and also to the benefits. We see that there is a MEOGA YLP in the budget, but who is getting? How are these funds being utilized? Because we really want to see that most people get these funds, probably when you look at the SAID to the social services, we see that the judge gets gets that portion, is paying for school fees. And then because they're not satisfied with the education system in the government schools.
Yeah. Okay. From what I pick from you, I think we just need to hold our public servants more accountable. But I would also still have to also slide this similar question to Mr. Mukunda. At how the economy plays with politics. Okay. I know that the country has an agenda, and we're supposed to have $500 billion by 2040 as GDP. Okay. And when you look at the regions, they are all imbalanced in terms of the economic contribution they bring to the basket. How can politics interplay? How should our leaders, let me not call it politics because the connotation around politics, but how should our leaders tap into, can I say, the agenda and encourage our citizens to become serious? Because according to most people's assumption is that we seem to have the potential, but we are not utilizing it. We have fertile soils. You know, we have a young generation, that can, be put to work. We have the good weather. We have all these favorable factors that can enable us to grow, but we are not seeing people getting off their comfort zone to actually take business serious.
I think that's a very good, really, I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but the politics have spoiled our economics completely.
Yeah.
Everything in this country is politicized. Even when you want to help victims like of landslide or people who are, who have got a disaster, you politicize that. I really don't understand why people really have to do it. You look at, let's look at the PDM. The idea is, ladies and gentlemen, government had to put aside the money for you to start something for yourself. Have an idea, develop it. We are putting up a circle here. Go apply for that money and come and start your business idea. This is a very brilliant work and program that can really revolutionize this country. Now, everybody said, wow, that is so nice. They jump into it. They said, do you know what? How many households? 10, 1, 2, 3, 10 million. Each one must get money whether you like it or not. Come on. Simply because you want votes. Now you are killing the same program that would have given you votes. So what happens? Everybody gets money. That's why you see people drinking it. Those who are serious, they have actually transformed themselves. And you can actually go and see people have transformed themselves out of PDM. But the other bunch that is really giving it bad publicity and bad performance is because of politics. That we went ahead and disorganized how the program was designed. And the same thing goes with almost all these programs. You have a nice program, you want to start it. I'm looking at, for example, like Atiak. You want to start a sugar factory. But the leadership is not supporting you at all. So really, I would encourage our leadership, especially politicians. We have the best brains in this country. Best brains, but we are not allowing them to work. Let us allow them to work and see the kind of change that can happen.
When you say we are not allowing them to work, who is the we?
The politicians.
All right.
The politicians are not allowing technocrats to do their job. They are interfering in what they want to do. When you have developed your very brilliant model on how to get more taxes, then that's when now the politician is saying, that one doesn't work for us, we don't want this tax. You have not even,
So based on your argument, what is the role of a politician and what is the role of a technocrat?
The role of a politician is eyes on, hands off.
I like how you've summarized it. All right. So, Mr. Blaze, please expound on this. I would like to hear your thoughts on how politics and leadership, politics, leadership, and economics are intertwined into each other and are somehow costing us development.
very exciting that you've asked me, the taxman, that question, but I'll share purely from my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, I agree entirely with what you're saying, what he's saying, that politics has undermined the role of the technocrats, right? And this is expected in an economy like ours, where in sub-Saharan Africa, but particularly Uganda, politics is synonymous with wealth.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
So it is where anyone would run to in the fight of capitalism to balance out some of their, to earn a living. Now, until the scale is tipped to shed more light on the ordinary man doing business to earn, you will expect that interruption to always happen. In truth, the technocrats in this country are brilliant people. If you look at the ambitions in the 2040 vision, aligned with the 6 national development plans, these guys were smart enough to introduce 6 different phases at which we shall check if we have met where we are supposed to go.
Yeah.
Now, bear in mind that the goal at the end of the tunnel is to ensure that Uganda has reached a upper middle income status. Last year, we managed to fit the criteria for lower middle income. So that means there's a bit of progress. The other factors may not have been considered, but there is a bit of progress. Now, what he's saying is actually true. The politician needs to allow the technocrat to take a front seat and see the project through. I believe even the project management is also encumbered by the over-influence of a politician. And you must understand, the politician really wants to do work for his country, but does he have the necessary qualifications to fulfill that area where he's trying to influence? So if it's a tax issue, it needs a tax man.
Yeah, but I mean also the fact that they're also legislators. Personally, I think that to what extent do the legislators understand the law itself?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, but
that's also a very reasonable issue to bring up. People have to go to school, get a master's, get business experience to understand the different areas, budget, economics, tax. So it's a bit of a tall order to have an MP enter parliament, and within 3 months you want him to understand all these concepts. So there's definitely going to be there's definitely going to be a bit
politicians,
of a,
oh my goodness. Okay,
no, there's definitely going to be a bit of a learning curve for them as they enter.
Yeah.
So that goes back to what the parliament is supposed to do, but in addition to that, public participation is still key. In the public, there are experts, there are technocrats, there are people of different professions that should be involved in the process and give their input. And the law creates these avenues for public participation to happen. What I'm trying to say is the public has also let down the parliamentarians. The parliamentarian has sacrificed himself to go and become a leader in a field that is extremely complex. He needs the support of his people to also make the decisions effectively aligned. So yes, I agree that there is a bit of political interference in the job of a technocrat. Everyone should be in their lane. Let the technocrat proceed. And I think with that approach, the project planning can become more efficient. Would look at an area where we actually find ourselves fulfilling the objectives, the ambitious objectives that are set in the 2040 plan, the NDPs, and the budget itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can I give you an example of this very quickly?
Okay, please, as we go for a break.
PDM, for example. When the PDM came, the politicians said that each and every parish. Now, a parish in Kampala here can have a bigger population than the district in this country.
Okay.
But you are all going to get the same amount of money. Because the politician said each and every parish, because that's where you become from. Schools, when schools came, see the schools, each and every sub-county must have a secondary school. There's some sub-county where you don't have enough students for a secondary school, and that secondary school is going to be empty. So if we let technocrats do their job, they would know how many children you have in each sub-county, whether you require a secondary school there or you need it in another one that has got more than others. Thanks.
More than others,
Just wanted to chip in.
All right. As we speak, I've been seeing visuals of the Finance Minister Matia Kasaija and his state, and they've been there. I think they're preparing to ascend to the grounds at Kololo to have the budget reading, and I think it's a live program that we're going to be relaying here on UBC TV. So we urge you to stay tuned. Kindly listen in critically for those of you that actually have the time and pay attention to these figures, because these figures at the end of the day are what are going to determine what you experience as a country at the end of the day. Because if you're in business, health, if you're at the end of the day, you must be able to know how much has been appropriated. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we actually proceed with this conversation, let's take a short commercial break, and we'll be back with some closing remarks and insights from these experts in the building.
The Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development will read the budget speech for the financial year 2025-2026 under the theme Full Monetization of Uganda's Economy through Commercial Agriculture, Industrialization, Expanding and Broadening Social Services, Digital Transformation and Market Access. Please listen to the budget speech on 12th June 2025 to know the budget priorities and the opportunities it presents. Our budget, our responsibility. This message is brought to you by the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and all the budget month partners.
All eyes on Abidjan for the 16th General Assembly of the African Union of Broadcasting, AUB. At the heart of the discussions, Africa's leading voices in broadcasting and media. Theme: Empowering African Media, Strategies for Financial Resilience, Technological Growth and Content Innovation. Abidjan will also host the Grand Night of the AUB Media Awards 2025. Let yourself be captivated by Côte d'Ivoire, the legendary stadiums, the golden beaches of Assigna, the majestic Basilica of Yamoussoukro, and of course, the unforgettable taste of achaka with grilled fish and the irresistible Kajeno chicken. Where media meets a vibrant Africa. See you soon in Côte d'Ivoire.
Here's your chance to win school fees for your child for a whole year. Just pay school fees using Momo. Dial *165 *80#. Select option 2 for school pay. Select option 1 to pay school fees. Enter the student number and amount and approve the transaction. You are now entered the draw to win school fees.
Hello, Kampala, Uganda. In response to the national call of strengthening the traffic security, Good Products Group HGO brand has officially launched the Rider Selection Campaign. Registration is now open. Visit www.riders.hgo.com. Complete your registration now for a chance to win exciting prizes including motorcycles, exclusive HGO gift boxes, and official rider vests, all while promoting safe riding awareness. This is how to participate. Pay the registration fee, invite 3 friends to form a team of 4, and your registration fee will instantly be refunded. Begin your journey of honor today. Don't miss this opportunity. Join the challenge, promote road safety, and become a pioneer rider. For details, visit the official Good Products website at www.hgo.com or call toll-free 0800-335-555 or visit our offices at Kingdom Kampala 3rd floor to register now and win prizes worth millions.
The Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development will read the budget speech for the financial year 2025-2026 under the theme Full Monetization of Uganda's Economy through Commercial Agriculture, Industrialization, Expanding and Broadening Social Services, Digital Transformation and Market Access. Please listen to the budget speech on 12th June 2025 to know the budget priorities and the opportunities it presents. Our budget, our responsibility. This message is brought to you by the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and all the budget month partners.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters.
The Minister of Finance.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You're still watching Uganda Broadcasting Corporation Television, that is UBC TV, and I'm Wadulo Arnold Mark. And like I mentioned, a few hours from now, we're going to be listening to the Finance Minister reading the National Budget 2025-2026, and also the budget that ushers us into the National Development Plan 4. And with me in studio, we've been discussing with pristine lady and gentlemen about several aspects concerning this budget, but also the National Development Plan, issues concerning tax, issues concerning debt, infrastructure development, allocations, mention it, budget centered here. As we wrap up, we're going to be handing over to the live team heading to Kololo. I would like my panelists here to give me their parting shots on the new eve of the National Development Plan 4 that we are entering into. What cautions should we ensure? I know that we've mentioned politics versus economics. We've mentioned tax base widening. We've mentioned responsible project management and implementation. But I want us to give our citizens parting shots on what we ought to put into consideration as we dive into the next financial year and development plan. I'll start with you, Ms. Penina.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, and my parting shots would be that I would encourage it would be towards the government.
Yeah.
If at all it can expand the tourism sector. It has very good potential of branding our country out there, because I see like the tourism sector, we have very good sceneries. Like you said, they usually brand our country as the Pearl of Africa, and I feel it has good potential in boosting our economy and also providing more jobs to the citizens and to the youth mainly. And the other one to be like to formalization of the informal sector, to bring it board on the tax to bring it on board on the formal sector, to formalize it so that we can be able to tax more, so that we were to raise more to raise more revenue within so as we see that all our aspects, all our goals are at least are reached. And then the other one will be to cut on the wasteful expenditure. We see that we usually pass the supplementary budget. They go today, they go to Roko, but there's a hospital there that doesn't have an ambulance. Yes, we should also look at that. And the other one would be to prioritize spending with high social and economic returns. So that's the citizens have to feel the pinch of the budget. Let it be a citizen's budget, a Ugandan citizens' budget, not a government-driven budget. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And then I'll also go to Mr. Julius Mukunda, your parting shot.
Oh, quickly. Is first, I mean, I'm excited. I'm seeing they are going to read the budget.
Yeah.
So, like all Ugandans, please just get prepared. The budget is going to be ready probably in an hour's time. We know we have problems, but the Baganda say, there are those things in the budget that are going to transform us. Let's get prepared and ready to take them to take them on. I think that is very, very important. Let us not relax. It is our duty as citizens to engage into this budget process and to benefit from it. Ensure that the money that is for the school, for health centers, it works because you are there as a citizen. And we look forward to continuous engagement. We thank government, by the way, for giving us these spaces. You know, Uganda is among the second on Africa and first in East Africa on open budget and transparency systems. So that's why you see us having got this information. And I think it's because government has been able to do that. So see you in Kororo.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Blaise Okwera, I would like to hear your parting shot.
Okay, so I want to just liken the preparation of tax laws to plucking off the feathers from a duck, a live duck. So the principle is, as you pluck the feathers, you should do it while minimizing the hissing of the duck. Why am I saying this? If you look at this year's tax laws, they provide a pro-citizen approach with very limited hissing. I will emphasize three. The first one is government's response to the IFRIS riots, let me say, wherein the tax from 6 million has been reduced now to double. I mean, if you sold a kilo of sugar and they were taxing 8 million for not issuing an IFRIS, indeed it was a bit too much. So government has responded in a pro-citizen manner by reducing the penalty to just double the tax due on that item. The second and very interesting opportunity for a taxpayer to look out for in this amendment are the waivers. These have been coming in very consistently, of course, attributed to the COVID-19, now even more relevant because of the USAID exit, Donald Trump's decisions. We see the introduction of a waiver for any tax due by June 2024, as long as the payment has been made by around 2026. So this is a very welcome initiative. It allows everyone across the board to go and clean their tax book and be ready to comply going forward. But the third, and I think this has been the buzz of the town, is the introduction of the 3-year tax holiday for citizen-owned businesses. And we must give the credit where it's due. However, I also want to highlight that the key support in this exemption is simply to remove the burden of compliance from the businesses that are starting. It's not necessarily that
existing ones, yeah.
no, the new ones that are coming.
New ones that are coming in.
Because after July, that is when it comes in. And this speaks to government's commitment to the youth, but also to supporting human capital development and access to starting up these businesses. So we have this 3-year tax holiday that reduces the cost of your tax compliance. However, the catch now is there is still a return. And taxpayers, as they welcome this exemption, must know that you are required to file a business information return, which falls into the administration agenda of government. It's a very efficient data collection process. Yeah. You give me one, I give you one. Yeah. So in exchange for the exemption, government will get data that will then facilitate collection in the long run. So from my perspective as a tax person, I think in light of NDP 4, and Vision 2040, the tax provisions this year are very supportive of that objective. Yeah. They align with the pro-citizen approach, and I think if Ugandans are waiting for next year to become compliant, now is the time to align with the program and support the vision going forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We really do appreciate your insights and answering on our call to, have these discussed for our audience. And we really do hope that our audience has some things, 1 or 2 things that they've picked out. And right about now, we're going to be switching you to Kololo, where the national budget is going to be read by the Finance Minister, Matia Kasaija, along with his team of other ministers. Again, we can't emphasize enough. Please take some time and listen and pick a few things. My name is Wadulo Arnold Mark, and from the team behind the scenes, allow us wish you a lovely afternoon.